Hello, I'm Marina Johnson, and this is TABLEWORK, a TAPS podcast series where we interview the artists and theater makers behind our productions on what it takes to get their productions from the page to the stage. This episode features TAPS PhD candidate Connor Lifson, who is directing the TAPS Developmental Stage production this spring. Join us as we learn more about the upcoming production of Moonchild. Connor, I'm so excited to talk to you today about Moonchild. It's nice when the two TABLEWORK hosts can meet in this way.
I'm very, very happy to be talking with you about this play.
What was your inspiration to co-write Moonchild with Sid Jung?
So the project began a long time ago, actually, as an experiment in style. I was thinking about mixing miniature, like puppetry, object-based performance with a live video camera on stage. And I started experimenting with that when I was in undergrad and did like my undergrad capstone project, which was now 7 years ago. That was just a devised exploration of the way that these two forms could intersect. What happens when we're shifting from full scale human performance into miniature, back to human scale, all in the same performance. And so, the project was amazing, had a bunch of problems and a bunch of exciting images that came out of it. And I've been kind of sitting with it for a long time. And I've been trying to figure out how to bring this project back to life in a way. And so the idea, the kind of the new conception of the project came to me maybe a couple years ago. And then I pitched it to TAPS, and then it got accepted, and I needed to write it. And that's when I approached Sid to collaborate on the writing process for the show. We wrote it over the course of the fall and the winter in a kind of funky way. I had a bunch of images coming in. I had a general outline. But then Sid ended up writing the first draft of the play, but it was in prose format. It read like a short story. And then I took Sid's short story and then adapted that into play format. And then since then, we've been revising ever since. So it's been a wonderful collaboration.
That sounds amazing. And this description for the piece sounds really interesting. So I'll just read. You talk about a world ranging, quote, from an ancient lighthouse in the desert to a raging inferno among the clouds, which is very evocative language. I'm curious, can you tell us more about this world and how you're bringing it to life on stage?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the exciting thing going into this mixture of forms is it allows us to do a bunch of things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do on stage, or you wouldn't be able to do it in the same way. So Moonfall is the world that this play is set on. It's a world in which the moon has gone missing, and the world has fallen ill in some way, shape, or form. The way we kind of generally accomplish these different changes in locations from the desert that used to be an ocean to the clouds that are now on fire is we have a bunch of miniature environments on stage that move around, and they move to different places on the stage, and the camera comes on and we start filming these miniature environments. So we literally have a like 2 foot wide table that is going to be a desert with purple sand. And so when our main character arrives at the desert, we shift into a miniature scale, and our character literally becomes a set of two fingers walking through this miniature environment that's being filmed. And so that allows us to have not just a desert on stage, but we get a desert and a burning sky and a creepy, mysterious forest and a bunch of other locations as well, all within the confines of the stage, which I think is really, really exciting.
That sounds incredible. And as a director, I mean, I love thinking through challenges like this, but I'm curious, as someone who also co-wrote this piece, when you're blending physical theater and miniatures and live video, I think my question is twofold. How did this come about in your writing? Did you always have the, oh, this section needs to be miniature in your mind? And then how are those things coming together in the rehearsal process? Is there experimentation involved with the actors to figure out form there?
Definitely experimentation. I'd say it's a mix of both of the things you described. I mean, the image of this lighthouse in the desert was one of the earliest images we came up with. I mean, that we've known since July, and we didn't know why. Like, I had the idea of a lighthouse in the desert, and that became kind of a pillar that informed the writing. And so the same thing with the burning clouds is we had these images and then built the script around those in a kind of way. But then the way that the images manifest in performance, I knew that they would be in miniature in some way, but there's a bunch of different ways that that can happen. And so I feel like rehearsals have been a blast, and collaboration with designers have also been a blast. So we've had a lot of exciting discoveries in the room, where the actors bringing them into the process once the play has already been written. They're coming up with such amazing ideas that then we can pass along to the designers and make happen. So it's really been a lovely shift back and forth between the initial ideas and then the way that those ideas get specified and complexified through rehearsal and experimentation.
I love that. I love the way that everything is sort of, feeding into each other. Well, and talking about the designers, what has that collaboration looked like? Are these designers you've worked with in the past, and how early in the process were they getting involved?
Yeah, the designers, many of them I've worked with in past before. Some of them are brand new collaborations, but they've all been so amazing through the whole process. I think that I started work with the designers early in winter quarter. I mean, Brennan and I had our first set meeting early January, and so we've been fortunate enough to have time to iterate a bunch on a lot of these ideas, and then designers have been coming in and out of rehearsal the last few weeks as well, which has been a complete blast. I think it's been like we started off really with trying to, like we do with any play, but I think particularly when you're making something as visually oriented as this, and as fantastical as this show, we started brainstorming about the world of Moonfall. Like, what does this world want to feel like? How can we give texture to this world? I mean, I think the world building questions are a little bit different when you have the live video camera and the miniature environments on stage. Obviously, the performers are super central to this, but I think in a lot of theater, we learn about the world primarily through the way that people interact with the world or what they're learning about it. And I like come from in early cases a film background and love fantasy films, and those are a huge influence on this show. There's certain things that you don't really get to do in theater very often, like the establishing shot of a location. I mean, I grew up loving the Lord of the Rings films, and so many of my favorite parts of those movies are the giant helicopter shots flying through these landscapes of New Zealand, and that's just not something we normally get to see on stage. But when you have the miniature environments, we're able to kind of get that feeling that establishes us into the world, and then the characters can enter into them. So the work with the designers has been a lot of creating the environment that then our scenes take place within. Yeah, and then also Eito Murakami's composing an original score for the piece as well, which is sounds amazing. He just sent me a new file this morning that I haven't gotten a chance to listen to, but it's really really beautiful, and the way that the world is gonna come to life sonically is incredibly exciting to me as well. And I think that all the design areas are really in sync in a phenomenal way. And they haven't come together just yet because we're going into tech at the end of next week. But it's been fun to think about building the world in different areas and then the way that they'll come together very soon.
Definitely. And the idea of this score sounds really phenomenal. What can you share anything about the compositional tools, or like what instruments, like what makes up the sonic world?
I know Ato's composing everything, most everything digitally, but I know he just got a guitar and is writing some stuff on his guitar as well. So it's a mixture of like acoustic instruments or electric instruments and synthetic ones. But we made an inspiration playlist of a bunch of different music and scores, particularly from fantasy films. I mean, Studio Ghibli was a huge influence on the whole project, and the score as well. And Ato has taken influence from that and then brought in his own work at Karma as well, in a really kind of amazing way. And so I think the world is going to have such a delightful and very unique sound to it. And it's going to, I think most of the show is going to be underscored, which is really exciting and intimidating in fun ways.
Yeah, very exciting. So this is a question, I think, just about live camera versus pre-recorded video. By making the choice to have the live video, right? And we talk a lot in performance studies about liveness and what that does. But I'm curious, in having the live video, what do you feel like that adds to the world? I'm assuming that the audience also feels like we're part of this world and it brings us in some way, but I'm curious to hear you talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think at its core, Moonchild, the play is it's a play about imagination in all its various manifestations, and I think that there's a exciting way by seeing the style of the show. The foundation of it is that we create this beautiful illusion within the frame of the camera, and we project that in real time during the show. But then on stage, we get to see all of the mechanism by which that illusion is made. By which I mean we see actors rolling the miniature stands to a certain part of the stage. We're going to see actors refocusing lights in real time to guide the to appear on film. We've got an actor coming on with a little mini haze machine to provide haze for the spooky forest. So there's just ways in which we don't hide the mechanism behind the illusion, and I'm really, really excited about the way that the audience gets to see not only the illusion, but also the mechanism by which that illusion is made. And I think that there's a certain way in which, when we kind of double the audience's perception in that way, you see the thing happening on stage, you see how it's made, but then you also see the perfectly framed video. The audience has to negotiate between these two different things. And I think it activates imagination in a certain, very compelling way, to me, at least, and it feels like really rooted in the central themes of the show, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I love the way it sounds like you're layering all of these elements on top of each other and giving us so much room for our imagination. I often feel like mine is not as activated as I would love it to be sometimes as I am sitting down doing academic writing. Although, of course, we're using it. So this is exciting. Um, as far as the rehearsal process goes, have there been any moments? I mean, it sounds like really you're all every day, realizing different things and working together to discover different things. But are there any particular surprises or discoveries that you've made in the room with the designers or with the performers, or even just you and Sid as you kind of talk as this all develops, that have shifted the way you think about the piece or shifted any of your goals for the work?
Yeah, I mean I've been incredibly moved by the way that I approached the performers at the first day of rehearsal and also during the audition process with this crazy project, explaining to them that we're going to be working with puppetry and also our fingers as puppets, and there's a live video camera on stage, and we're going to be shifting between full scale, so be acting in full scale with other actors, and then shifting into tiny scale as well. You're going to be puppeteers and actors kind of at the same time, and the way that they picked this up so quickly has been really amazing to me. They were generating ideas that have found their way into the show, even as far back as their callbacks. I think that there's ways in which I came into the process with certain ideas about, okay, this scene is going to all happen in miniature. But then during the callback, we found a situation in which we could shift fluidly from miniature into full scale and then back into miniature during the same scene. And so I think there's been I think all that is to say is that the actors have found lovely ways to embrace the form of the show and come up with new ideas that I couldn't have come up with myself, particularly in when we shift and how we shift between these different scales. And the same has been true for the designers as well. I mean, the way that our lighting designer, Reina, has come up with just absolutely astounding ways to light these miniatures has been incredibly beautiful. I don't want to give away too much, but just to say that you can't light when we've got 5 or 6 people huddled around a tiny 2 foot wide miniature on stage. You can't light that simply with lighting from the grid. So we need to think about lighting the miniatures themselves rather than the whole kind of environment around the miniatures. And she's found exciting ways to do that not only activate the lighting grid itself, but also activate the actors to become lighting technicians in the middle of the show as well. Has been really, really fun. And it's been really moving to see the ways that both the cast and the designers have totally embraced the form and are now iterating on it and coming up with new ideas, in collaboration with each other. Has been really, really exciting.
That's amazing. You mentioned mini hazer, and I immediately thought, well, if you're using a mini hazer, are we using mini lighting instruments? Like, what does this look like? So I will stay tuned in the performance for that, just to really see how all of these elements are playing together. We've talked about the set and the lights and the sound. Are there any other elements of design? Like, do you have are you and Sid sort of designing the live video aspects together? How is that working as far as the design process goes?
That we have a amazing cinematographer who's going to be on stage with us during the show. His name is
Wow.
Kevin, and yeah, Kevin has been such a delight in rehearsal. He's coming from a film background, but he's also a dancer, and so has a sense for how movement works on stage. And so he's been our director of photography in rehearsal with us pretty much every day. So he's on stage with the performers in real time, and we kind of set the blocking of a little bit with the performers, but then we have to adjust the blocking based on where Kevin is with his body and also with the camera. So in a way, we're in a theater rehearsal, and then at moments we shift and kind of plan a film set on stage in real time and then shift out of the film set. So that has been so exciting to see the ways that the video has integrated with the full staging. And Kevin's been a driving force with that. Two other design areas that I should just mention because they're been amazing is I don't want to give away too much, but Ezra's costumes are going to be absolutely beautiful, and we've got multiple changes that happen on stage in real time in front of the audience, which is going to be an experience. And then Sid's also designing shadow puppetry for the show. There's sequences throughout where characters are telling myths from the past, stories that happened long before our main character ever entered Moonfall. And the language we have for telling these myths of the past is through shadow puppetry, or really it's negative space shadow puppetry, by which I mean the lighting themselves are the shapes, not the shadows within, which is going to be, I think, really, really beautiful. So those frames are arriving in rehearsal literally tomorrow that we'll start playing with those as well. But all that is to say is that the show, it's an hour and 10 minutes long, and we're jam packing a lot into those hour and 10 minutes, shifting between not just between scales, but also between forms on stage in real time.
Wow. I love getting to hear about the collaboration and all of the designers you have working on this. Kevin in the rehearsal room sounds like what an incredible attribute and collaborator to be there, and really getting to have a DOP with you on stage is amazing. Also, just worth noting always that any great collaboration is led by a great director. And so I'm just really happy and excited to hear how this is all going. I'm curious, and I hate this question as a director, but I do tend to ask it. When audiences leave, what do you hope they're thinking about or talking about or asking questions about? Not in a prescriptive way, just in a what does this world bring up for people in your mind?
Um, I guess I'll say first that, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, but like imagination is at the center of this play in the style and the form, but also in the content and the themes of the show and what our main character is going through. And I really believe that imagination is a muscle that needs to be exercised. And I think that this show, if it does nothing else, it hopefully will exercise people's imaginations or really invite them to exercise their own imaginations. And so I hope people walk out and are feeling inspired and excited and embracing what our imaginations are capable of bringing into the world, and the way that that might, even if in subtle ways, the things that we imagine can change and impact our world as it really is experienced. Because I think we often think that there's a clear line between what is real and what is imagined, and I think this play does its best to make that line as hazy as possible and reveal that there's ways that our imaginations can actually change the world in some small way.
I love that, and I'm feeling inspired from this conversation. So I look forward to Moonchild. I hope everyone listening gets our tickets now. We have like 2 weeks until the performance, right?
I guess that is true. I'm trying not to think about the little time we have left, but I'm really, really pumped.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Connor. This was such a wonderful conversation about Moonchild.
Thank you so much.